What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your October 5th daily creative reading. We're going to hop right on in and see where this day takes us. I thought I'd go back to some in in face. That was my first instinct, so maybe in face as opposed to in person, but this is all in person, so you know what I'm trying to say though. You get it. Okay. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives, please, for October 5th? Ooh, fire and ice. Could be some things that are kind of I'm seeing something like in your chart. Like this is more like about you as opposed to like energies colliding outside of you or you interacting with other people's energies. Yeah, it's like it's coming across as like just a little bit of this like tension inside of you. Like there's something that a tension inside of you that's very interesting. Fire and ice. Seed of the heart. Maybe it's because of this. Like there's maybe seeds of intention or seeds of something that are being planted, or it's like sometimes I feel like we have these things within us, like this power within us, and it almost comes across as like seeds that we planted a long time ago or like lifetimes ago, that certain situations cross our path and it like wakes us up into something that could grow. And I feel like maybe that's happening here. That's what this seed of the heart is about. And perhaps that's where the ice, like I'm almost getting that this is like a defrosting. Like there was like this, like the green reminds me of earth and like the earth energy of spring. And the blue is like the ice that's melting. So maybe that's true. Maybe there's something to that where it's like there's a part of you that's emerging. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. Spiral Dance of the Goddess. That came out yesterday. I'm inclined to say yesterday. But Spiral Dance of the Goddess. Yeah. I feel like this is what I find so intriguing. I'm seeing like a vortex. Now, vortex, like to me, when I think of vortex, I think of Abraham Hicks and like get your butt in the vortex, right? Like that kind of thing. But I'm seeing it as like this storm, right? And not a storm that it's like, maybe for a long time, the way this is coming across, because Esther Hicks talked about this and said, find the eye of your hurricane and stay there. And when you're in that mode, this spiral dance takes on a different character because you're in a spiral dance, but it is constantly like, okay, where's the eye? Where's the eye? Whew, okay. And like you're always on the lookout for something, but this feels like it's more, it flows with, it just flows. Like maybe that's where the melting is coming in, because there's a part of you that has to freeze over and be inattentive to yourself, right? You have to almost resist embodiment in order to get through a period like that, where you may not have been able to really tap into something that's more connected to your fire, because that requires a softness, right? It requires more of a flow. And I'm almost seeing like liquid fire. This is so fascinating to me. Liquid fire. Huh. Okay. Let's dive in. We'll see where this goes. This is super interesting so far. Yes, that's... I had a moment. I'm like, how do I shuffle again? Okay. I'm going to move this. Okay. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives, please? For October 5th. All right. Ooh, kicking things off. The call to adventure. The 5 of Swords. I almost get this, like, I just heard opt out. Like, you could opt out of certain mailing lists, and I feel like this is like you're opting out of the conflict one. Let me just move this microphone. There we go. It's like you're opting out of one, maybe because like it's like you were signed up for something, so you just got these like messages of conflict. This also strikes me as like, because it's happening in a group, it's like you're seeing a different way of doing conflict, because this could have just been the way that like everyone did it or the way that it was done before. So it could be like a sort of 3 of Cups shift. A 3 of Cups shift. Yeah. Your intuition is going to carry you forward right now. High Priestess and the Knight of Wands. But I also feel like that's a word of caution against impulsivity, when you're not like in places where you can't speak yourself into being, right? Where you can't show up as your authentic self, when you can't show up, and like there's this silencing that takes place, right? So it's like the Knight of Wands is here to remind you of sort of an instinct that you have inside of you, not to neglect that, not to neglect your fire, because we can honor the fire in others, and we can see it and be really impressed with and just enamored by it. I find this with friends, right? Like I love their fire. I'm so excited. Most of my friends are fire signs, but there's also, I've seen it and experienced it where that can be in the negative as well, because your fire gets kind of tamped out, or it can't shine in a specific way. So it's like finding spaces and situations where you don't have to argue on behalf of your limitations, or you don't have to argue from a limiting or limited place. Like you can just show up as yourself, and that's enough. And like what a gift that is, right? To be seen and to be able to see others is like it's a luxury that it shouldn't be a luxury, but sometimes it is. And I feel like that's sort of like, it's almost like the economy of like, I want to say the economy of walking away and choosing something other than conflict, right? And we can't always not choose conflict. We have to at times, right? But it's the difference between seeing things as conflict and seeing it as setting boundaries and keeping yourself safe, right? Keeping yourself safe and keeping like and honoring yourself too, right? Like I've experienced it more recently, where I've just been doing these like sort of evaluatory things where I see behaviors that I'm engaging in, and I'm like, does that honor me? And I find that I go through this. I say we, like the royal we, but it's whenever I go through changes or significant changes specifically related to like physical, so like moving and things like that, I tend to do this sort of small evaluation of where I've been and how I've behaved in places, like implaced. And the context and how I responded to that and how that responded to me, and what did it generate for both of us? How did it work, right? Or multiples, if this is like a group setting, right? So the call to adventure it's almost like the Five of Swords is showing up as like a different way. Whoa. The refusal is the Lovers and the Two of Cups. This is such an interesting refusal. Oh, you. It's such an interesting refusal because I don't feel like this is about refusing. It's not about refusing love, but it's like the ways that you felt you needed to address, like the way that you needed to be when you were in love, or like patterns of conflict. And I'm getting patterns because it's the swords energy. It's like emotional intimacy is how this is coming across, because, when you're in this, it's almost like fight or flight mode, because you believe in needing to fight for something as opposed to allowing it to flow. And that's kind of where this like defrosting of the heart center is taking place. And it's like you're understanding that you didn't need to be in the hurricane, right? You didn't need to be in the hurricane. You didn't need the drama. You didn't need all the other stuff. And this is really about you honoring what you want. And I feel like the refusal may be because there's some unfamiliarity to something that just flows, right? There can be an unfamiliar sense, like your senses, your embodiment, your Empress energy isn't necessarily familiar with this if you've been more tapped into an ice than a fire, right? So you're worried because what you don't understand is that the ice is actually water. So you're worried about the element changing, right? Or it changing form, right? But it needs to, because your emotions deserve to flow. That's a channeled message. Oh my God. Yeah, your emotions deserve to flow. And it's like you've been stealing your own energy and like filling up other people's cups, but it's only ever ice cubes that then become a substance that is within another substance, instead of something that you offer of yourself on its own or unto itself, right? So, okay. Spirit, what's the tower that could become, or what could become a tower if it goes unchecked? What's that energy here? The Fool. I'm getting this is less, I laugh because I just, it's just such a good energy. And for it to become a tower if it goes unchecked, what this is saying is not a leap before, like don't look before you leap. If you're in that energy, there's the impulse, right? The Knight of Wands came across as the thing that we needed to kind of shy away from, right? That impulsive action that's disconnected from intuition. And I think that illuminates how this could become a tower if it goes unchecked, because if it's not connected to something bigger. And the Fool is like, the Fool doesn't leap for no reason, right? There's an intentioned it's like an intentioned movement that has a direction. And I feel that's, yeah, like an intentioned movement that has direction. The Three of Wands. The Three of Wands doesn't necessarily have direction. It's more observing. And the Fool is the leap, right? So all of these cards coming together in this energy, I'm picking up that it's like, you're seeing that it needs to be connected to something bigger, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's a project, whether it's friendships, whether it's friend groups, relationships, what have you. There's got to be a bigger picture that it connects to, right? I get it. I'm an Aquarius stellium with like a ton of shit in the 11th house. I need that, right? There needs to be something bigger, be it emotional intimacy, depth, relational connection. It has to be about, a cause or something like that, and not a cause for the sake of itself, but because it's connected to that something deeper. There's like this spiritual meaning that gets made from this. And that's, I think, what the Fool is. That's what the Fool is in this energy, is there has to be something bigger, and it has to be in service to something, which is sacred partnerships, right? And, it doesn't have to be like constantly working, like you can just enjoy. But what, for me, that service is that the way that you bring either, relationship together, because the Two of Cups is a relational card. It's whether that's coworkers, friends, family, what have you. In Canada here, next weekend is Thanksgiving, or this weekend is Thanksgiving weekend. So, family relationships, this could very well be the case too, where it's like when I connect with family, what I love hearing about are the big things that are going on in their lives and how they connect that to other things that are bigger than them, right? So, but anyways, it could be to do with any number of relationship, but I think it's this emotional intimacy that all of us get to experience and that we can all relate to as experiencing in relationships and as cornerstones of relationships. And that cornerstone, that's interesting, more conflict. Maybe this is where I'm getting the protagonist is how conflicted you feel. This is the tension. I was picking up on the tension here. There's a tension within you, this fire and ice, or there's a tension period. I don't necessarily know the texture of that, but it's like this, it's like there's these parts that are, it's like you're at war with yourself, if not at war, at least like you're like, I see you, like these different priorities or things that you've wanted to prioritize. So you've been outside of integrity with yourself by virtue of the fact that there's been disharmony in your energy because you haven't been aligning it to something bigger. And maybe that's what this is here, where it needs to be connected to that. I'm hearing recycling your energy. Could be Aries. Wait, this is Aries. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So I feel like this, it's like and that really does make sense with the spiral as well. It could be that you're going through a period of rejuvenation. And that is true of the seasons too, right? Like how seasonally appropriate of you. But I think it's like, let me do this again here. Rewind. If this isn't about relationships, romantically, I would be a bit surprised because this is on the split Ace of Cups and Six of Cups. It tells me that there's something strong here. There's strong connections. Someone means a lot to you or something means a lot to you. It could be past life connected, but it could also just be related to the past, right? There's a certain nostalgia that you're seeing relationships through the eyes of now, perhaps, right? Where you're able to look at things and instead of seeing through the lens of grief and grieving, there's perhaps this melting, right? This melting so that it's a new way that your energy is able to show up in this ace, meeting other aces along the pathway. So what's the antagonist energy here, Spirit? Four of Wands. Interesting. I almost get that it's like the lack thereof. This is to me about structure. This is a little bit about stability, yes. But I feel like it's about more than that. I feel like this is the energy of I don't want to say the promise of, because if you live in, and maybe this is why it's an antagonist energy, if you constantly live in the place of promises, it doesn't really ever show up, does it? Like it's because it's always the promise of, like you always get this IOU, and it's like pulling out of that energy because that too is a form of conflict, right? It's passive aggressive conflict, especially when like people will say, oh, well, I'll show up this way or this will happen, I promise. Because if they're not showing up that way and it's like consistent over time, it's just not, that's not how it's going to be. And it's about kind of seeing things quite clearly, I think. Yeah, because it's like there's so much that you have to give and that you want to give. If this is related to more creative energy and a project that you're working on, I'm getting that this is about seeing what actually is, as opposed to, and it's just strengths. Like, it's seeing the strengths that you have, it's seeing the strengths that other people have clearly seeing those things, and not pulling any punches or trying to like make something of it that's not there, right? So it's like a clear assessment through which you're able to see, this is what it is, this is what it's not. Okay, now we can work with something, right? So it's like removal of the smoke and mirrors, because again, that's like passive aggressive conflict, right? And it doesn't honor us to demand that people show up in a specific way either. So when it comes to relationships, again, Page of Cups, so it's like, but it feels like there's like something you've been waiting on, like it, and it's not a really constructive energy. Like, this strikes me as something you want, the constructive, you want the potential to build, but it requires that foundational structure. So it's like you need that. And the fives also represent change, right? The main challenge here is the Four of Pentacles. So I think the Four of Pentacles is like, when you get, I almost get that this is like when you're burned enough, you just stop showing up in a certain way, or you withhold. And the reality is that protects you to a certain extent, but you don't get to learn who you become after that. You don't get to integrate the lessons of healing, because you're just like hanging on for dear life, right? Like you're still, it's like you're confused because you think that the weather is calm and the winds are still, but what's happening is you're just in the eye of the hurricane because you haven't left it yet. Right? And sometimes that can encapsulate the dark night of the soul, where we go through a period where it's a little bit peaceful and then we're like, oh, we're through it. But you also have to get through the other side and then let it go, right? And then release. And, I don't know why hurricanes are like that. I mean, I guess because it's hurricane season, but what's the main challenge here, Spirit? The main challenge to overcome? Main challenge. Whoa. Eight of Pentacles. Finding out not just what works, but what's worth your time. And what's worth your time in terms of what honors the work that you've put into healing, what honors the work that you've put into a project that you're working on. What are the behaviors? Because I see the Pentacles coming through in this spread as behaviors. So what are the grounded actions that bring all of this beautiful emotional energy to life, that are helping you to move forward? So it's like asking those questions, and honoring what is worth that investment, and what investment is worth your time, in that you've put in the work too. So you deserve someone who's put in the work to themselves, and who isn't afraid to show up, that wants more than just attention, that wants more than just your attention. Like, you need more than that. You deserve it, right? So, and it's not just about, relationships either, right? Like, it's like, yeah, I'm getting, there's like worries, and this is a legit worry, but a lot of swords energy, patterns. It's like putting an end to past patterns where this may have been the case, where you spent a lot of time trying to figure out. And like, when you're in situations where it's like you have to spend 70% of your energy guessing, that's not a connection. That's vampirism. That's an energy vampire, right? But it's not that person is possibly even conscious of their behaviors, right? They may not even be conscious of it. Because where you're putting in the work, someone may be so distracted. Like, this is how it can resonate differently, right? Somebody else could be so distracted that they just don't even see how they're showing up. Because I think that can be true as well. And it's not about pointing a finger. It's about seeing the behavior and saying, okay, that's not what I need right now. I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to go experience this. I'm going to invest my energy this way. Because sometimes we can hang on, and this is what it can do to our energy when we just keep on waiting, And it's like it's not the most helpful in the end, right? There's that Six of Cups again. I feel like this isn't necessarily something that's on your radar right this red hot minute, but I feel like it's gonna pop up. That's the energy you don't see coming at the bottom. And I think that's what you're waking up to, is the truth of things. And also this thought pattern that you might have been bringing to the table with different situations. It's not just showing up as your authentic self, but this is like beliefs, habits. Again, with behaviors, like what are the beliefs that inform the behaviors that you've been leading with and that you've been primarily investing with, right? My cat is so ridiculous. Anyways. The main theme is temperance, which is some Sagittarian energy. I also get this as like balance. Like the main theme here is coming back into balance with yourself and doing it for yourself, not as a reaction, right? You don't want to do it from a reactive place, because when you're doing that, you're not really filling your cup back up. You're like scrambling to fill, like you're scrambling in that. What just fell out on the bottom? Yeah, Page of Wands and the Three of Swords. It could have been that it's like you sort of put yourself in this page place because you didn't trust your perceptive instincts. Like this, it's almost coming across as like this aspect of your intuition where it's like you didn't trust the desire for something. You've stopped trusting that, or you don't trust where you're at because you're like, well, does it really matter? Yes, it matters that you're happy. It matters that you're coming into balance. It matters that the things that you want you back, or demonstrate that they are accessible to you, because otherwise you just end up spinning your friggin' wheels, and that doesn't honor you at all. And it also doesn't honor other people, right? So I don't know why that's so loud. This message is like, bleh. It's very intense. Okay, Spirit, what messages do you have just to clarify these here? I feel like overall, if this is about relationship for you, I feel like the Lovers came out again. It's like choosing a new way to do things. 9 of Wands and the Lovers again. If it's more about work, I feel like it could just be finding a new way to engage with people. And it could be moving to, a new environment. It could be like environmental shifts and changes, right? Where you find sources of stability. But the thing is that you have to find stability within yourself. And I feel like that's another way that this Fool card can become a tower, is because if you put so much emphasis on the new beginning, you sell yourself short. And that's kind of what this is here. Like all the ways that you've sold yourself short by not believing in you, by choosing conflict, by allowing your energy to become frustrated with and again, this tension, right? And it's like when you don't listen, when you disconnect from the truths inside of you, what you're waking up to, this Ace of Swords, there's seeds that are like, they're starting to sprout. I'm seeing this little, like, the fast forwarded movement, watching a new plant sprout up, where they like wiggle through the earth. That's what I'm seeing right now. Like these things are starting to grow for you and bloom and blossom, but you have to let them. And I think that's the key. So I'm going to, just 1 second, and we're back. Sorry, I was getting a call. Okay, so let's do this. Let's clarify a little bit here. Spirit, can you give me more specific details here? Is this... Okay. I'm hearing timeline. I don't know. What's the timeline here? Sorry, I just giggled. Well, but it's like it's like in your head, like maybe there's something that's being manufactured in terms of a timeline. Yeah, it's like a lot of unknowns right now, but that may be, that's the worst holding up. It's like there's a lot that's unknown with the moon, but I'm seeing this 10 of Swords as like a finitude, like there's something's done, but there's also this defensiveness, and it's like the stories that you're telling yourself are related to the pain as opposed to the thing that you're moving towards. So when you get to the place of telling the new story, Abraham Hicks is big with this, telling the new story, you'll be able to tap into the timeline that's beyond the one that you're manufacturing. And that is like real freedom, isn't it? That's where the chains come off the necks of those chained to the devil, because it's something we willingly sign up to and like ascribe to. So these are different stories perhaps. So when it comes to timelines, I'm like, when is this going to happen? When is my good coming? It's here. But I think you have to see it first, right? You have to see where you are as the blessing before the blessing shows up. Like there's not it's not like a gumball machine where you walk up to it, pop in the quarter, and like your blessing comes out. It's where you are, right? It's where you are. And that could be the tension, is like you're seeing where you want to go, like you're seeing ahead, but you can't really, you can see where you want to go. and connecting to where you are feels difficult. And it does feel uncomfortable sometimes, right? Because you're like, well, I want to get out of here because of X, Y, and Z thing. But it's less about escaping and more about understanding that the power within you isn't just to respond. The power within you is to plant seeds with intention, right? With intention, I like intentionality as opposed to in a state of tension. Whoa, that's a good title. Yes, thank you for your patience while I jot all this down. Spirit, can you please clarify just a few more details here for me? I'm hearing the song How Will I Know? No, I'm not singing it. Nope. My voice is starting to change again, so the squeak is pretty aggressive when I try to sing. No. How will I know? Oh, wow. You'll know. Okay, so I can't make this up. This is one side, and then when I split the deck, I'll show you the other. So on the one side here, I was like, how will I know? And now we see the impulse again with the Knight of Wands and the Empress, the High Priestess. Different deck, same cards. Can't make this up. And do the cards lie? No. So I get the impression that this is about this sort of refusal, right? Like I'm seeing this like unifying energy. It's like this coming together where the stories that you either told yourself about what's possible or told or believed, or like why you stayed chained to these things that weren't working in terms of your beliefs or, contexts. I'm thinking about specifying some of these readings more because they're so general that it's like I want to find out like about work, or I want to find out about relationship, and I feel like I don't know if that's true for people watching, but I've been thinking about specifying them more. Nonetheless, I feel like there's this sort of impulse that you're like better able to work with because you're less inclined to it's all about how your beliefs are shifting in terms of this devil energy kind of snagging you along the way, right? And it becoming where it's like it's like spinning your wheels. I'm seeing tires spin and the smoke coming from the tires. And it's like you're better able to trust your impulses. You're better able to trust your instincts. But like in terms of how will you know, you need to be connected intuitively to understand what's next. And then this almost came across as like how you'll know in terms of this is like spirit's side of things, and then this is your interaction with that. Now it's like you may find that you people are giving you wisdom. You're gonna know because of how it feels, right? You're gonna know because of how it feels. There's a way that you're kind of hesitant to trust. This is instinct as well, right? Your creative instincts. It's like you're not fully ready to trust them because perhaps of the way that fate has been played before, or that it's sort of like been weaponized in a way like, oh, you'll miss this, or oh, you'll miss that. And it's like opportunities are everywhere, right? It's not about it coming through one person. And I think that even I got caught up in this for a little bit, and it's not even about one place or one situation. Like everything is, you being here is fated. Like what? Like, and it's not about something from outside of you from on high coming in, and it's not like that, right? That can give us this buildup of energy that places power outside of us. And this isn't to reduce the notion of fate or destiny, because synchronicities certainly play a role. I'm experiencing this in my own life where it's like, what? But, okay, however, it's not about the power that you put in things outside of you. And I think that this is where you're going to know because it's a much more even exchange and it's not a power struggle. There's no power struggle here where you're left like trying to fend for yourself against what feel like forces outside of you and outside of your control, where your best efforts nothing that you apply sticks, right? I don't know why this is coming to mind. I had a friend once who said that you can tell that spaghetti is ready and like the perfect texture, because if you pull one out of the water and throw it at the cupboard, it sticks. I do not use this method, but for some reason that came up. Like, it's like, and I almost get that, like, maybe your spaghetti hasn't been ready for a long time. right? Like it could be that where it just, this is the weirdest fucking metaphor, but we'll roll with it. But like maybe it hasn't been ready for a long time and you've wanted something that is ready, right? So when synchronicities come, it's easy to not trust them because you're in a place of thinking, well, a lot of things haven't stuck. But you need to let those go. The point of the 9 is to denote the end of a cycle, and that you do not have to be a participant in that way anymore, in that specific shape and form. And this is to say that the way to know that you're on the path is like where it feels like a certain ease of giving. There's a reciprocity here. And if that's in relationship too, like we can throw ourselves into this state of tension because we are believing specific lies or stories that cause us to obsess about the details and be in this like figure out phase where we have to like look for we rely on our intuition instead of trusting what's coming on the path. Because when you experience things that throw you into a bit of a place of pain, right, where you don't trust yourself, let alone like even the slightest hints and inclinations, it's really hard to come into an overall balance. So then you start to rely on compensatory behaviors like conflict to outline your reality and to outline where you're going, but you don't need to do that. The point here that I'm seeing is that there's something so much more available to you that is based in something that's like grounded and structured and that has all of the makings of something. This is like long term, right? So this could be, if you're looking for work or something like that, it could be projects that give you that sense of yourself. They kind of remind you of because this is fire too. This is big fire. This is major arcana fire. It's Sagittarian, right? So it's going to remind you of the expanse and the way that you can come back into balance within yourself, as opposed to this way that it's like you understand your fire on the basis of how you get through conflict and tension, this fire and ice, right? So it's like there's two ways of understanding your drive. There's two ways of understanding your ambition. And if this is related to relationships, it's passion, right? It's how you express desire, how you express passion, how you express love for one another, for your beloved, and how connected that is to your truth, the truth of who you are and how you do that, and how free you feel, not just to say to someone, I love you, but to love them in a way that feels authentic to you, right? For me, like my big thing in terms of receiving love is acts of service, words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time too. all of them, please. No, but it's there's different things, and I know that I show up most easily loving others in terms of acts of service. Words of affirmation are more difficult, but you can do it, right? So in that book, I highly recommend it because it applies not just to romantic relationships, but they have variations for at work, for friendships, for family, for even with kids, because kids have that too, right? So it's like how you're showing up in the most authentically connected way. So it's allowing yourself to do that. That's believing that it's possible and that you deserve to show up without pretense. Oh, don't forget that. It doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to show up as something that's like adjacent to it or connected. You just show up as you, and that is the being that's honored. That is who you are, not other stuff. So and other stuff. Let me just be super nebulous, non-specific, and hope that you get it, right? No, I'm kidding. But just the way that you show up versus all of the things that you're told about how you should. That's where this devil energy comes in. And you're being invited, whether through these retrogrades or whatnot, to really let it go. To really let go of those pretenses, because there's a way that your soul is like calling to emerge here. And I feel like it's like got to do with perhaps seeds that were planted again lifetimes ago. The 6 of Cups came out a few times, and this could be this sort of coming together of something that's meant for this lifetime, right? That's meant for and even just for you to know about yourself. What a gift it is when we learn how loving we can be. What a gift it is when we learn the depth of what we want. What a gift it is when we get to show up as our whole selves, right? And have someone love that, I'll use examples like I'm a book nerd. Love it, right? Love it. When someone gets that about me, be it in friendship or when my family sees it and they're like, what are you reading? Like, it's just, that is like, it feels like butter. Like it's just so beautiful, right? Or understanding my need for, a little bit of alone time sometimes, or nature, things like that. Like, what is it about you that, like, when you show up like that? I have, I know someone, I have a coworker that is quite religious. I don't share the same beliefs, but I know that to honor them and to really see them is to ask them how church was that day, to ask them about these things, because that's how they feel seen, and not to do it from a place of inauthentic, like I'm going to ask because it's tokenistic, because I actually care, right? So it's about bridging that and finding those places where you can both be a container and show up in ways that honor where you're heading and your truth. So that's, before this like runneth over, I'm going to pull from the Super Attractor deck because it was super attracted to me. Oh my God. Okay. What is happening with this shuffle? Spirit, what messages do you have just to close out this reading? Oh, super casually, all of them. Okay. What is happening? Okay. You want all of them. Got it. All right. Oh, I let the universe catch up with my dreams. Maybe that's what this tension is about. I let the universe catch up with my dreams. Chef's kiss. Beautiful. I can decide today to recalibrate my energy and commit to love and joy. Spiritual alignment puts my manifestation into motion. And that's where I feel like this high priestess in the Knight of Wands is coming through here. It's like spiritual alignment puts your manifestation into motion, right? The momentum, the fire, the instinct. This is you trusting it and moving towards it instead of feeling like you have to approach it with a certain degree of it. Caution is different from conflict. So remember that, right? We don't want conflict. We want perhaps caution because it honors you, and caution not from a place of lack, but see it as like pace, right? Setting a different pace and seeing that differently instead of saying, well, I want to take things super slow because of blah, 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 all these past things. Don't look to the past of things. Invite yourself into the present moment and say, I'm pacing myself because I want to get to know someone really well, because I want to be deeply curious. And I know that I can't be in that curious space if I'm rushing. And also I know that I don't want to rush because it doesn't feel good anymore. It doesn't feel good. So it's like finding those ways to talk about it in a way that keeps you in alignment, because that's where the motion's going to come from. So that was your reading for today, my lovelies. If this resonated, please give it a like and subscribe. I'd love to have you on the channel. If you're joining me from my subscriber base, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you're here, so thank you. And as always, wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, I hope it finds you very well, my friends. Take care.